Hello, once again, and welcome to the Practical Marketing Podcast with myself, Niall McCreanor. In episode 1, we gave you a quick overview of what we hope to achieve within the remit of this podcast and just the kind of things that I think should be delivered to small business owners today and on a larger scale as well. This week we will be looking at why marketing is important. We'll be looking at how to get started, and we will also be looking at one of those theories I mentioned in episode 1. We will look at Porter's 5 forces as it relates directly with getting started. Once again, this podcast is brought to you by nmccreanor Marketing. Visit nmccreanor.com today, throw a donation to the podcast and receive a free marketing consultation. If you don't need a consultation, feel free to purchase one of our books. Well, by one of, I mean our only book, a novel I wrote myself called Powerless. Powerless is my debut novel, and it focuses around Lee Sabata, an average man in a not-so-average world. Due to a premature birth, Lee has not developed superpowers like everybody else on the planet and must hide it from those he loves. Lee's thirst for knowledge leads him on the trail of a far-reaching government conspiracy. While investigating this, his beloved brother goes missing, and Lee must use all his training instilled onto him by his father to find out what happened to his brother, where Lee comes face to face with an undefeatable foe. Powerless. In a world of superpowers, what happens when you have none? We will start by looking at why marketing is important today. One of the big things that people would always say to me, and I suppose it's a common misconception, is they feel that marketing is just advertising. This is not the case. Marketing is a lot more. It's an ethos. It's a way of getting on. It's a culture that can be spread throughout an organization, and it gives people an identity of your company. It gives people a vision of what you are, where you are going. It's a plan. It's all of the above. Now, there's benefits to it, obviously. It gets the word out about your company. It makes people know your brand, what you stand for, what your products are. Depending on who you're targeting, like that should be tied into your brand identity and your brand's message. So if you're targeting male, obviously you'll have more of a male-centric marketing mix. If you're targeting women or different demographics, different geographies, like if you're targeting, as I'm from the Republic, I might have a localized campaign, but if you're in countries like the UK, your market is much broader and you've better scope to get the word out. It encourages sales depending on the message. Like if your marketing plan is a product centric drive, it will encourage people maybe to your website or to your store, and it will encourage sales. Now there is companies out there where the marketing identity isn't necessarily to do with selling a particular product. Like there's a lot of maybe branding where they're trying to build an overall brand. So if you're a larger company, maybe like Nike might have an ad where it's about running, or it's about football, where it's not one specific product, but it's a whole range, it's a whole brand. So that would be covered in that. It allows you to build a reputation with your prospective customers, or even people who aren't customers. Like you're able to put out ads, and you're able to, not even just ads, but like you're able to build an image of your company that you want. And if you don't build the image for your company, you might find that someone else will. Maybe one of your competitors might turn around and put up an ad saying, like, not even necessarily putting up an ad degrading your company, but they might say, if you own a tavern or a pub in the town, they could say best pint of Guinness in the town. And unless you address that, people might automatically assume that their product is better than your product. So by doing nothing, you're allowing other people the power to control your reputation. So it's very important to be able to put out a message, to be able to control what people think and see relating to your brand. It also promotes healthy competition, as I mentioned there. Like if you don't promote yourself, somebody else could demote yourself through their marketing. So what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to put your message out there as an option for your target audience. If you have two companies competing for one target audience, you need to make sure that they know who you are and what your product is. Now, I'll actually discuss this on a case study just now in a few minutes. As I said earlier, people often mistake marketing for advertising. Advertising is a part of marketing, but it's not marketing. It's a branch on the tree that is marketing. Marketing really consists of advertising. Along with community involvement, customer support, distribution, market research, media planning, product pricing, public relations, and sales strategy. So, say with regards to advertising, there's two different types of advertising main platforms. You have traditional advertising, which is your newspapers, radio, TV, outdoor advertising. So anything that you can physically put your hands on or view from something that is not a digital platform like a computer or a tablet or a phone or something. And therein obviously is the second form of advertising, digital advertising. This is obviously, it's online. You have display advertising, which is all the little pop-up ads or a nice little graphic, and then you have the Google AdWords would be the other type of advertising, where it's search engine advertising. Online has a lot of benefits to driving traffic to your website. You need a good website, obviously, because there's no point paying for advertising if you're driving someone to a website that isn't good. With regards to traditional advertising, the costs on this are quite high, and they're hard. It's harder to control and manage your costs because the scale is so much bigger than the digital platform. So what a lot of large companies do is they employ media agencies to look after their traditional, and their digital, all their advertising. But what I would have done in the past, I actually worked in one of these agencies, and so what happens is a big company would come to you and they'd have a target audience and they'd have a budget, and then it would be up to me then to go and negotiate rates and know why I'm going in which newspaper and which radio station, because it would resonate well with the target audience. So like, I would have had that background, but it's very hard if you don't know who your target audience is listening to, if you can't get the research behind it. But when you do digital advertising, it rules out a lot of things, because you can do, like, you've keyword searches. So what you do is you pick what keywords you want. So I'm a marketing consultant. If I want advertising on my website, I buy the keywords marketing consultant. So say someone goes into Google and types online marketing consultant, my website comes up at the top, and hopefully someone will pop on and hire me to be their consultant. So that's how it works. And then you bid for the keywords. So some keywords cost more than others. Like you'll never be able to compete with massive companies like Tesco's or Debenhams or Kmart or something like that for online advertising, because they pay so much for their Google AdWords. It's just a non-entity, but they also rank very high with SEO. So if you're competing, or if your industry is in competition with any of these larger scale companies, what you need to do is you need to create an online environment whereby anybody who engages with your brand kind of finds it easy to get to your website. So the best way to do that is obviously through a good, well refined firstly AdWords campaign. You'll still need one, just keep the budget low. And then what you also need to do is you need to have an incentivized newsletter on your website. So you need to give someone a reason to sign up for the newsletter. So say whether it's €5 off the first sale or 5%. If once you get them details, you have a direct path to your potential customer. Secondly to this, you also need a good social media campaign. You need to, I'll address this, I'll go through all this on a later episode where I will address social media and driving traffic and everything. But what you need to do is you need to focus the scope of your campaign. Like, there's no point having 10,000 followers on Twitter if only 200 of them are your target audience and only 200 are your customers. So like on Facebook, there's a lot of people who like and share competitions and brand engagement and things like that. These are all very good ideas. Everybody's doing it for a reason, because it works, and if you have a competition where it's a like and share, like, if, say, I done one for the pharmacy recently, and like, everybody on our Facebook page would have been our target audience. So within the target audience, obviously friends of theirs and friends of friends were all of a similar background, so they would have been an extended target audience. So we had a like and share competition, and within one day we had 600 likes and 600 shares, so that boosted our website overall by 20%. So things like this that create engagement are fantastic. You'll also need a good blog to drive people to your website. You'll need, a blog and a video blog are both very important, because on a video blog you can create your YouTube channel, so that's another social media output. But every video you have is a blog post where you just transcribe it below. But you would also keep it engaging. Like, I'm currently doing work with one of Ireland's largest online retailers for golf clubs, golf equipment and all that sort of stuff. So the way that they keep it engaging is by having a blog post that's, the 5 best drivers for under €100, and then they review each driver, and then each driver has a video, like a golf club driver, and each one has a video, and then each video and each blog post has a link back directly to the product on the website. Now, by doing this, you have a blog post, you have a video, you have a tweet for Twitter, and you have a Facebook post as well. So you're always driving traffic back to your website. Once you've established and built an audience, you use content to drive people back to your website. One of the big things I always ask anybody who asks me for a consultation, I'll look at their website and I'll say to them one very simple question: why would I buy off you as opposed to your competition? What sets you apart? So what I would do is I would look at it, and if it's just a store like any other store, like if the price is the same, if the price for delivery is the same, why would I switch from where I am to where I'm going? So again, the things that I'm saying will incentivize you. So if you have a newsletter where people sign up and get €5 off a sale, so they'll have signed up, so you'll have their details, but they also feel like they get something. They get €5 off a sale, so they're more inclined to maybe actually buy something to get that saving. So you're kind of enticing them into the sale. Like, and along with that, if you've no content on your website, you're just a store. You might as well, you're just throwing things up there and hoping someone buys it. Content is king. Content is king today, and you need to have it. And it not only needs to be content, it needs to be good. People don't want to feel like they're being tricked online, because there's a lot of skepticism and cynicism still with buying online. People are unsure because they're not walking into a shop and talking to someone, unless you're buying from someone like Tesco, as I say, or Dunnes Stores, or unless, like an established retailer. If someone lands on your website and they don't know who you are, they need to trust you. Content is a big way of doing that. You're helping them get to know you and to know what you are and to know what you're doing. Community involvement's important as well with marketing, because like if you work in a shop in a small town and there's another shop next door, so why would I buy off your shop as opposed to the next one? Well, maybe your shop sponsors the local football team. Maybe your shop collects money for guide dogs. Maybe your shop, hires only local people and supports local, and and buys only from local suppliers and local producers. So that sort of community involvement and that sort of culture, again, will drive people towards your brand, because you're building your brand identity and you're strengthening your marketing ethos. Customer support is also important. If someone comes into me, I'm going to use the local shop again for an example. If someone comes into a local shop and says, I bought some grapes from you yesterday, they weren't nice, or they were gone off, or they were whatever. If you know this person comes into you every week and gets their local shopping, go over and give them a new pundet of grapes and say, there you go, there's some grapes. I am very sorry for it, for yesterday. I'll note it with the manager. You know your customers. You know people that are coming in. People don't try and con you, and especially out of something small like that. Generally speaking, people are good, and people don't want hassle and don't want to be an annoyance. So trust them and offer the customer support. When a customer comes to you, support them. Give them the reason. Give them the reason why to come back. Make sure that when they leave, they feel like that they were listened to, that their issue was addressed, and that they are satisfied. And if you do that, you'll never have trouble with customer support. Distribution's important as well. If someone buys something off you today, and if you say you're going to deliver in 3 to 5 working days, and if they have to call you back in 2 weeks and say, hang on, where's my product? I still haven't got it. They will never buy off you again. They'll never buy off you again, because they know that because you've bad distribution, they just won't trust they won't trust your company. They won't trust anything. Market research is also very important. You need to know your market. You need to know who your competitors are. This will come in as I talk about Porter's 5 Forces a little bit later on. You need to know your target audience, who they are, where they are, and more importantly, what they want, and how much they're willing to pay for it. Everybody has a price point. Every product is a price point. Like if I was buying a pair of runners, my price point could be $60, $80, $90, $100. So anything below that price point in my head, I might buy that product and not even think about it because it's within it. But if I'm paying over $100, I'm going to think very carefully about the product that I'm going to buy. So you need to know what the price point is for your target audience. You need to know your area. You need to know like if I bring in this product, why won't it sell as well as opposed to this one? Maybe in the area people don't like a particular supplier or particular range or something like that. Media planning, that comes down to your planning agency. That's if you're doing a larger scale campaign, but I suppose if you're doing a small one too, it still is relevant. If you have a tight budget, you need to know if you're going to advertise when is the best time. Like if you're retail, 60% of retail sales come on the run up to Christmas. So from September, between September and Christmas, you'll do 60% of your sales. So you need to know that maybe that's the best time to do your advertising. Or if you're doing summer holiday focused products, maybe the best time is January, February, when people are planning for the year. So then if you're a pharmacy, you need to know that when the sun cream sells, or when people weight loss or non-smoking products, you need to know what products sell when to best plan your media planning. As I just mentioned earlier, product pricing is very important because the price point a lot of people have, you need to know what it is. You need to not price yourself out of the market either. You need to be not too dear that a customer won't buy it, or too cheap that you're not making any money and you're undervaluing your actual product. So you need to look at the best way to price your products. Now, what I always do is I look at the competition. I see what they're selling a product for, how much and why, and I try and gauge what they're thinking. Now, this is very useful unless you're a brand new product to market, which then your price point will be very different because it's what you kind of set yourself just from your own market research. Public relations, marketing. directly affects your public relations, because once you create your website, your blog, you do your press releases, your email marketing, your social media marketing, even your traditional marketing, this all leads to public relations and how you engage the public with your brand. Your sales strategy will also be tightly linked in with your marketing research, because there's no point thinking you're going to have a big sales drive in August if you've no marketing in August. So what you need to do is, on the weeks running up to August, you need to have your campaign planned, you need to have it well refined, and you need to be able to execute it when your sales strategy needs to come into effect. So if I think from August the 1st I'm going to have my sales are going to increase by 20%, my marketing needs to increase by at least 40%, because I need to engage the prospective customers that I want to get that 20% boost from. This makes it a lot more whole when you bring things together like that, and it gives you the best chance to achieve the actual goals that you want to set out by your sales strategy. I suppose I mentioned earlier the difference between you marketing and allowing your competitors to do marketing for yourselves, and the importance of marketing. I'm going to throw back just to it's probably one of the world's most famous case studies with regards to marketing. It was called the Cereal Wars during the Great Depression in the late 1920s. It was between two companies. One was called Post, and the other is well known to all of us, called Kellogg's. Post during the Great Depression nearly cut all the marketing budget. They stopped spending. They tried to curb the loss of sales by not spending money and save jobs and do things like that. Kellogg's doubled its marketing spend. It pushed new brands, and one I'm sure we're all familiar with, called Rice Krispies. Snap, Crackle and Pop was the three little men on the box even back then. By 1933, profits rose by 30% in Kellogg's, and Post nearly went out of business. It's fair to say that Kellogg's won the cereal wars. It wasn't much of a war, it was more of a massacre. But this kind of highlights the importance of marketing and where you should be in your marketing mindset. Marketing is not really an expense, it's an investment. Post saw it as an expense, and they thought, right, well, this is just an expense we can cut, and we can save this money, and we'll survive the tough times ahead. Whereas Kellogg's knew that they were investing in themselves. They were getting their brands out there. They were making it known to the people across America, and subsequently they benefited from it. The second part of the podcast, as I said, it is getting started. So I'll just quickly go through it, because getting started it's literally what it says in the tin. There's a good bit of marketing there actually by a company that I'm quoting. To get started, you need to identify your target audience. This is the basis of your strategy. Okay, so firstly, is it a B2B, a business to business marketing strategy, or is it a B2C, a business to consumer marketing strategy? So that will define certain parts and certain that's the first thing you need to establish, which you know your business anyway. Then the next thing you need to do is, if it's B2C, you're looking at the sex, you're looking at the age, you're looking at the geography, and you're also looking at the demographics of your potential target audience. So you need to know if it's males over 55. You need to know that, because males over 55, they're not going to be on Facebook, they're not going to be on Twitter. You might get them on email marketing, you get them on Google AdWords. So it just helps you curve where your focus is. You'll get them on local radio and things like that. If your audience is women between 18 and 24, you'll get them on Pinterest, you'll get them on Instagram, you'll get them on Snapchat, you'll get them on Facebook. I'm not sure Twitter or what that resonates with that particular demographic, but things then you would get them less on would be your AdWords, and would also be your email marketing. You need to focus on creating a clear and succinct message. and aim it at a specific audience. So again, if you're targeting men over 55, you're not going to have Britney Spears as your spokesperson. You know, you need to just think about these things and know what resonates well with the people, and don't patronize prospective customers, because people are smart, people are intelligent, and people, if you treat them right, they'll listen. So form a message that is informative, it's non-aggressive, it's something that is beneficial to them. And if it's not beneficial to a particular person, it's just not beneficial. Like, once they see the message, it's up to them to make up their mind whether they want to engage with a product or not. So what you're doing is you're putting the message in front of them, and then you're letting them decide what they want to do. You need to identify the best channel to make sure your message is known. So as I mentioned before, whether it's online or offline, you need to be able to engage with your prospective customers where they're going to be. So if you're targeting someone like myself, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I am online a lot, I'm a male in my 30s, I like sports. So you're building kind of an overview of engagements where you could touch in and out with your target audience. Content is king. I mentioned that before, and I'll say it again. When it comes to marketing, content is king. With blogs, videos, podcasts. Like, if you consider, in the past, if you wanted to get a video seen by customers, you had to be on TV, and you had to spend hundreds of thousands of euros just to be seen by anybody. I can literally set up a video camera with a green screen and make a video that you would see on TV that's as good as any, and I can put that online today. So there's no barriers anymore with creating content and getting it across. Like, simple as this, you're listening to my podcast now. In the past, I would have had to have gone to multiple radio stations. I would have had to pitch the idea of the Practical Marketing Podcast, and it would have been so much more difficult. Now, people who are listening to this are obviously my target audience, because you're maybe an SME owner, you want to build your own personal brand, you want to just push your own name out there. So you're my target audience. Now, obviously, I'm giving free content, but it's content. I get to put across the message of my own website and my own books and things like that. So it benefits me to be able to do this to help you. Now, if you consider your product, is there a reason why you could create a podcast? So if you're in retail sales and you're creating and you're selling shoes, just off the top of my head, shoes. So is there scope to make videos about shoes? Yes, there is. Can you compare them to each other? Yes, you can. So you can do a video comparison, you can do blogs, you can do maybe not so much podcasts, because it's very visual, but you have the other options in front of you. So you don't need to pay people hundreds of thousands of euros to do this. You can do it yourself. Like, there is no issue. Like, I'm literally recording this on my own home laptop with a decent microphone, and I'm going to put the content up later today. So the content is king, and you can now control your own content, and it's pretty much amazing at this stage that we can do this. When you're planning your marketing campaigns, what you do is you plan it 12 months in advance. You split it by quarter. So January, February, March is quarter 1, April, May, June 2, July, August, September 3, October, November, December 4. You split it in, and then you know where your peaks and troughs are within your sales, and you focus your marketing around that. Like, again, as I say, if you're retail, you're focusing more September, October, November, and the first few weeks of December. After that, it'll filter off. If you're a travel agent, as I mentioned before, January, February, March. If you sell sun cream, June, July, August. So you need to know when your product is at its strongest, and then that's when you upweight your marketing. And then throughout the rest of the year, still maintain a strong marketing presence, but it just doesn't need to be upweighted as much. Make sure your plan is dynamic and fluid. So make sure that if something changes in the marketplace today, like a new competitor comes in, or a new product, or people's mindsets or trends change, make sure that your plan is able to adapt. If something happens this week that you feel might interfere with your marketing strategy, again, I'm going to use a travel agent as an example. If there's a disaster in Belgium like there was a few weeks ago, or Tunisia like there was a few years ago, obviously you're not going to push those destinations as your go-to areas. But what you might do is you might pick somewhere else. You might pick Italy or Spain or France. So that's being dynamic and being fluid. So you're allowing the focus of your marketing campaign to shift while still maintaining the actual focus on marketing. You allow for variables in the unforeseen and different things like that. So that's kind of how you get started. Now I'll get into more of this at a later date with regarding the actual dynamics of it, the actual physics of it, where I'll discuss your website, your actual content, how to get it out there, how to put it up, how to create your videos, how to make money from your videos. Like if you throw up a video, like if you're just a brand yourself and you just want to create content, fantastic, like that's amazing. So what you do is you create the video, you put it up on YouTube, and you can monetize it to show ads, and then you're actually making money off your content. If you have a blog that's online, you can open it up to Google AdSense, and you can open it up to various different advertising platforms. So when someone is on your website, you're getting paid for them to read your content. Now that works well for products that are brands. Obviously, if you're selling products on your website, never do that, because then you're driving people away from your website. But if you're creating an online platform, like there's websites out there like Joe.ie is a famous Irish website where it's essentially clickbait, where they post things online about Conor McGregor or Irish football or things like that. But then you go down the bottom of the page and it's all advertising, all driving traffic away from their website, because they don't sell any products other than what I call clickbait. They can do that, and they can afford to do that, so they have that advertising on it, so they're making money when you click onto their website. So it's quite ingenious for people who have a platform where a lot of people engage with the brand and they mightn't necessarily have a specific product. As I said at the start of the show, I would talk about one of the theories I mentioned in episode 1. Given that I'm talking about getting started and how to build where your marketing campaign, I'm going to talk about Porter's 5 forces. This analysis is associated with its principal innovator, Michael E. Porter of Harvard University. Now, what Porter's 5 forces is, it's a framework that attempts to analyse the level of competition within an industry and business strategy. It draws upon industrial organisation economics to derive 5 forces that determine the competitive intensity and therefore attractiveness of the industry. So there's 5 forces that when you look at your market, or you look at a potential new market that you want to bring out, that you need to take into account. So say the first one is supplier power. So that's the power of people that you buy from. So like if you want to sell Apple products and that's what you want to do, then the supplier power in that industry is massive, because if you want to sell Apple products, you have to buy from Apple, and your price point is already decided. So like you're already restricted in what you do. But if you want to sell something like an Android product, where the platform's open, where there's different brands, there's different things, the supplier power diminishes substantially straight away. So like the supplier power, like it can moderate the number. What you need to do is moderate the number of suppliers. If the suppliers are very large, as I said, the likes of Apple, it's hard. Where the suppliers with similar products, they have a better power, like, but you can still choose who you want to buy from. You need to be able to substitute your suppliers. So if I go to one supplier this week and I say I need 100 of product X and they don't have it, I need to be able to substitute that with another similar product that I can say to my customer, look, it's the same product, it's just got a different name, or it's normally dearer, but I'll give it to you at the same price. So things like that kind of help with that. You need to be able to change your suppliers, because if you constantly only buy from one supplier, and if they put the price up, or if they change their policy, or if they discontinue the products that you have, like, that's effectively a nail in a coffin for any business. You need neutral supplier power. You need to be able to substitute in and out. You need to be able to minimize their power with what you're doing. Now, unless you are the supplier, of course. The threat of substitution. So some cross-sell product substitution, the ability to import food, and some substitutions like that. So again, I'll use maybe the Android example. If I want to sell Android products, right, I can buy in a Sony Ericsson phone or tablet, or I can buy in a Samsung phone or tablet. Now, essentially, they're the same thing. They run the same platforms. They run, there's not much other than price, style, performance-wise. Generally speaking, if it's the same spec, it's the same thing. If it's the same core processors, if it's the same memory, the same RAM, like, one can be easily substituted for the other. So that's one of the threats with that. Another threat is buyer power. So if you're selling, this is more B2B, so if you're selling a product and you only have one or two customers, how can you reduce the power that the buyers have? So say, here's a good example, dairy farmers. Dairy farmers in Ireland, generally speaking, sell to Glanbia dairies, and they have the power to set the price of the milk. And there's nothing the dairy farmers can do about it, because there's no substitutes. So the buyers have all the power. Whereas if there was maybe 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 different companies competing to get the milk from the dairy farmers, the price could go up, because they have more power to decide who to sell it to, and where then the buyers have to bid to get the milk. So it creates it's better for the economy, and it's better for everybody to reduce buyer power, obviously, unless you're the buyer. The threat of new entrants to the market. This is very, very important in certain industries. Again, with things popping up like Alibaba and AliExpress, I'll talk about these sites later, but these make it very, very easy for you or I or anybody to just go on and buy nearly any product we want, stock it and sell it. It makes things very, very simple. So if there's a barrier to stopping people entering the market, it can benefit you if you're already in it. Or if you have to overcome that barrier now, you might find down the line that it has actually protected you later on, unless you get stung, unless that barrier gets removed. So I'll give you 2 quick examples of one where it's a pro and one where it's a con. Within the pharmaceutical industry in Ireland, if you want to sell products online, you have to pay €5,000 to the PSI, so the Pharmaceutical Society of Ireland. So just to be registered as an online pharmacy, you automatically have to pay that. So say if I went online tomorrow to AliExpress and bought loads of pharmaceutical stuff and went to sell it online, I couldn't. And if I did, I would be disassociated from I couldn't call myself an online pharmacy in Ireland without being regulated. So I would have to pay that 5,000. But if I could afford to pay that 5,000, it stops other people doing it too. So that's where it will protect me after I have paid it. Now, the problem that can come from that, this is example 2, is if that 5,000 then gets removed. So I've paid €5,000, I'm at €5,000, and I'm depending on this. Sorry, that's €5,000 a year. So I'm I'm depending on this to protect me from have a go heroes from jumping into the market and just trying to sell their products to compete with me. When that gets removed, this is example 2, as I said, if you consider the taxi regulation in Ireland, in the early 90s you would have had to pay €10,000 to get a taxi license in Ireland, a taxi plate. And it protected you because only a certain amount of people could afford it. So it kept the number of taxis down, but it kept the quality of the service up high. Now, in the mid-90s, the Irish government deregulated it. So that meant anybody could become a taxi driver. Just get your license, get your car. Once it met a certain standard, you could be a taxi driver. And this meant that was the problem then and is the problem now. Cities like Dublin are absolutely inundated with taxi drivers. So anywhere you go in Dublin, there's 100 taxis and one customer. So the value and the cost of the product has gone down, and it has affected people's livelihoods. And once that barrier was removed, it, so to speak, the floodgates opened up. The last and fifth, the final one, is competitive rivalry. So what you need to consider is if there's too many competitors, you need to consider the commodity of the products, low switching costs, low customer loyalty, high cost of leaving the market. So if there's too many competitors, if there's three florists right next door to each other, why would you go to one and not the other when one is cheaper? So when things like that happen, price becomes the main factor, and obviously service to some degree. But if you look at the supermarket industry, this is what has happened here. There's so many different types of supermarket. Like if I look at Ireland alone, you've Dunnes Stores, Tesco, Lidl, Aldi, Centra, Spar. There's all these different chains that there's just so many of them. Why would you go to one over the other? And it just means that other things come into play. The commodity of the products, so how much your products are worth, or what they're worth, where you can get them if they're cheaply bought. If I here's a good example. If I buy fruit in one shop and I know it's good, but then I buy it in another shop and it's half the price, but it's not as good, which do I buy it from? Now, personally, I would buy it from the shop that's good and dearer. But a lot of people, the trends seem to go, people will buy it for cheaper and eat it that day rather than have it last a couple of days extra. Low customer loyalty. So how do you address this? How do you create customer loyalty? How do you get people to identify with your brand as being the industry leader, and how do you remove that as a barrier? You need to create your ethos. This is where your marketing comes in, and it's very important that you create customer loyalty. If you give a customer what they want, they will be loyal. So marketing is important for all these things. Now, as I said, though that's Porter's 5 forces. So that's one theory. So if you want to have a look at it online and go through it and see how it relates to you and your company, it's important when you're looking at a new market, or even when you're analysing your own market. It's important to know what are the strengths within your industry. Like, as I said, it's supplier power, threat of substitution, buyer power, threat of new entry, and competitive rivalry. So that's Porter's 5 forces, and that is very important to know. That's everything for this week. Next week we hope to cover the marketing mix and segmentation, although things may change between now and then. Visit nmccreanor.com today to get your marketing consultation, or throw a donation to the podcast and receive your first one free. You can buy my book Powerless, which is also available on Amazon.com. It's available in paperback and it's also available in Kindle version. So from everyone here at the podcast, I would like to thank you for listening, and make sure you rate, comment and subscribe. And thank you and goodbye.